friends, and family. Thank you guys so much for joining Every Day's a Saturday with your host, me, myself, and I, Brian Roof. Hey guys, we got another great interview. I'm super excited. I finally got my first lady, and she's a Marine. She's a veteran who served her country proud from 2004 to 2012 as a 3533 LVS operator, and she got out as a corporal. So let's go ahead and meet Chelsea. What's going on, Chelsea? How you doing?
Good, I'm good. How are you?
I can't complain. Can't complain. So, Marine, tell us a little bit about yourself. Kind of what made you join the Marine Corps, how your life was in the Marines, and what you're doing now after the Marine Corps.
All right. So I was 19 when I decided to join. I was originally dubbed into the Air Force. I was dubbed into the Air Force for about a year, and two of my cousins that are females were both Marines, and they're like, "We think you should join the Marine Corps. You would like it a lot better." So me being 19 and naive, I switched over to the Marine Corps and did the boot camp and MCT, MOS, all that stuff. And then I met some people throughout the way that have just been a blessing. So we'll get into that a little bit later. But 33 originally. I was a 31, but in school they chose one class to become a whole class of 33s, and with my luck, I was that class. So I became a 33 and then went to Japan. And from Okinawa, I went to Iraq, and that's where all of the fun began with my military career, I guess you could say. I got linked up with 2nd CLR in North Carolina. And originally I was with 3rd TSB out of Okinawa. And so we went over to Iraq, and I was in Takadam. I was actually a 50 cal and 240 gunner. So that was an interesting, feat.
Yeah, no
I had a gun buddy. We talked about it. We talked about it the other day. I had a gun buddy, and I told you I mounted the 50 cal by myself. And he'll tell you, he's like, I wasn't gonna help you. You could do it on your own. So I did that by myself.
Now, for people that may not be aware, let them know how heavy a 50 cal actually is.
It's about 127 pounds. And back in the day when I was younger, I weighed 120 pounds. So the weapon actually weighed a lot more than what I did. And you could break it down. I would break it down and throw it up on the wheel well and crawl up through the turret and on top of the hood of the truck and put it all back together and be on our way with the convoy. We ran convoys at night. So, you had to make sure that you did a test fire before you left the gate. So make sure that the weapon, worked correctly. And then we just ran a lot of convoys. The cans that people lived in 2005 are what we delivered to the different bases. We went to Baghdad and picked them up with our LVSs and then brought them back to all of the other bases, Al-Assad, Takadam, Blue Diamond, our Ramadi. We did a daytime convoy to Jordan one time. That was interesting. But we usually did our convoys at night. And I mean, it was just I was 19, it was scary.
Were you guys rolling around without your lights on and all that stuff, and LBGs, all that and stuff?
Yes.
Or LVGs, I mean?
Yes, we did. Yeah. And if you go to my TikTok, the videos that are on my TikTok are actual videos from when I was there. Those were recorded by, my friends, and, I don't know who else put videos in with their, they're from our unit, our platoon, but I don't know which guys submitted which video footage to this, but that's our deployment that we did. And then I went out again in 2007, and that was the last time. So I was active from 2004 to 2008. And during that time, I got divorced in 2008 and got out of the military. And then I ended up missing it about 6 months later and decided to go back active reserve. And I moved to North Carolina and did about 3 or 4 years of active reserve time and got out and, just went to school, then became a mom, and then moved to Florida. So, I'm living in the Florida like life right now. Retirement, people dream of at the age of 60. I got to do how like 35, 34-ish. So it's been nice. I can't lie. I had a great time in the military. I made a lot of friends. I'm still friends with them all to this day. If I needed anything, I'm sure I could reach out to any of them and they would help me in an instant. And I think that's true, with any military person that had a good experience or had, a good time or made good friends that became family, which I think that I would say maybe 90% would agree, that you become family with each other. But
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's
mhm.
one thing I love about the Marine Corps, and I mean, even the veteran community in general. It's kind of a tight knit, group of people, and that's one thing that's great. So, you went to boot camp over there in good old North Carolina, right?
Paris Island, South Carolina.
South Carolina, yeah, that's right. So, how was boot camp for you?
You know, I hated it when I was there. And then when you get out and you look back on it, you miss it. I think it was fun that when I looked back on it. I mean, it was hell, but it was fun. It wasn't bad. I made friends with the girl. There's a girl specifically that was in my platoon for boot camp, and her and I had been together for the first 2 years of our time together. So we got really close. Wherever she was, I was. Wherever I was, she was. I got to the point, where our families were sending each other stuff in Iraq, and they became like our extended families. Her family has became my family, and mine has became hers. And she's getting ready to retire, and I'm flying to San Diego to her retirement because it's just we started together, and then it's kind of going to be like an end together type of thing, even though it's her retirement. But like, I just feel that we started the journey together. I just kind of want to be
That's
there to end it
outstanding.
with
That's
her.
awesome. Yeah, that is
Yeah.
great. I'm sure she's going to be, love to have you there as well.
Yeah. So, there's two other people that are going with me that were also in our unit in Japan that live here in Florida. So I'm going to have company going. I won't be alone. And we're pretty excited.
That's awesome. That's great. So, once you got to the fleet, how was the fleet and everything for you? And talk about that a little bit.
Well, when we were in MOS school, we got a wish list because when we were 31s, they gave us the option to either stay at 31 and go to Yuma, Arizona, or, you had to go to 33 school, and then you would get your wish list, which is you pick three different, locations, and then obviously the Marine Corps chooses where you get to go.
Right.
So I picked Okinawa, I think California and Hawaii or something like that. And I was in martial arts for a few years growing up, and it just always sparked an interest in me, and I always wanted to go there as a child. So I figured, why not utilize this time, from the military to go for free? Well, it was only a 1-year tour normally. And then we were the first 2-year tour to go to Okinawa. So our group of people, that were going to Okinawa during that time, we were the first 2-year tour to go. And they told us the day before we left that we were going to be there for 2 years. So, I mean, I wasn't highly disappointed, but, at the same time, I was a little nervous because I hadn't been away from my family and I was 19. And not only hadn't I not been away from my family, but I was going to a whole other country, So it was a learning experience. I loved it. I loved Okinawa. Everything about it was gorgeous. The beaches, you know, the weather, the people were amazing. The food is great. You know, I would like to move there. My husband says no. He's not going for it. I've tried,
No.
but he's not going for it. But I mean, if I could move there again, I definitely would. You know, it was a fun experience back then.
Did you guys get to go out in town a lot, or did
We
they kind
did.
of keep you? Yeah, awesome.
No, we did. We had Cinderella Liberty unless you had a gold card. So we had these cards, and the red card meant that you had to be back on base at midnight, and then the gold card meant that you had to be back on base, you know, I think at like 5 a.m. or something. So, and it was up to the unit, you know, obviously commander and sergeant major and all that. You know, it had to go up the chain of command of whether or not you were capable enough or, you know, mature enough to have that extra liberty time. So when we came through the gates, you had to show your card. So if you had a red card and you came in after midnight,
Oh,
you know.
yeah.
So a lot of us,
or like liberties taken away, probably, huh?
well, I mean, yeah, it depended
or sometimes some of them were pretty cool with you guys, like,
it
hey, don't be doing that again.
yeah, kind of. It depended on, you know, how many times you did it, and if you were in trouble and you snuck out. You know, it depended on a lot of variables. But we did, like, a lot of us would sneak in other people's cars. So like some of us had vehicles out there as well, and we would pile in the trunk or like in the back seat, and you know, people, they would sneak us back on base. If she had, like, I had a friend that had a gold card and I had a red card at the time because I was newer to the unit. So you had to be on the unit, I think, for like 6 months or a year or something like that before you could even apply for your gold card. So she would pile us all up in, you know, her trunk and sneak us through the gate, or there would be holes in the gate. People would sneak in and out of the holes through the gate. You know, you're a Marine, you become inventive.
There's
You know,
there's a will, there's a way within the Marine Corps, man. We always find a way around some shit.
yes, yeah. And you know, we weren't allowed to have liquor in the barracks. So, you know, we got inventive with that. We would put it in a book bag and tie 550 cord up to it and pull it up the second deck, you know, to the second deck story window and pull it through the window and, you know, do field day without getting caught. So
that's great.
Yeah.
It's always, like I said, where there's always a loophole, and Marines find a way. Even in the Middle East, when they said that it was a dry country, stuff ended up in the mail all the time, like in Listerine bottles and stuff. Yeah. We were drinking some nasty Listerine, but just to have a little bit of some liquor in there, though, we were doing it.
Yeah. One of our guys had some scent, and they got drunk while we were out there, and he was so drunk he was doing cartwheels and like just being loud and crazy. And we seriously thought we were going to get caught, but we didn't. So I guess we got lucky. But I mean, there's definitely ways that they sneak it out there. They get inventive. People definitely get inventive with it.
I partied a little bit more than I thought I would. Let's just say that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I got married young. So, I was, I think 20 when I got married, and we were living in Japan. So I didn't do a whole lot of partying.
Did you guys live on, did you guys live in like base housing or something like that?
No, we lived in the barracks. Because we went on a company tour. So what had happened is he was on camp Hansen and I was on Camp Foster, and we went, you know, obviously at separate times. So we were on a company tour. When we got married, we were close enough on the island because the island is so small that they technically didn't have to move him bases, but they moved him to Camp Foster. So we were kind of, our barracks were next to each other, but for the first, I don't know, few months of our marriage, no, we lived in the barracks.
Now, were you guys allowed to share rooms, or were you guys sneaking in rooms always?
No, we were sneaking. Yeah. Yeah.
Getting past that
we were married.
Duty.
Yeah. You know, I mean, it was just like, and then we went to Iraq together when we were married too. So that we didn't get to sleep together out there either. You know, we got that separations pay and the combat pay still, and all of the other pay separately. So we didn't care.
Yeah.
You know, it was just whatever with it.
Yeah, that's interesting though. I mean, so what was his rank at the time?
We were corporals.
Oh, both corporals. Okay.
Yeah, in the same unit, in the same platoon. So it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh shit. Did
Yeah.
everybody knew? I mean, you guys have the same name tape and all that?
We did, yeah. 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 Whenever they'd be like, well, go ask Corporal Moore, and they would be like, well, which one? And they would have to say either male or female. You know, that was the only
happened. Same thing happened in supply. There was several married couples, and they were walking around with the same name tapes and stuff. It was crazy. See them going to the chow hall together. You know, it was just like,
yeah, we did that out in Iraq. I mean, you know, we were together a lot out there. You know, they put us on the same convoys, but normally they didn't like to. You know, and that's for, you know, if the husband gets blown up or the wife gets blown up, you know, they don't want the other one to freak out. So they tried to not put us on the same convoys. We did one convoy where we actually got to ride together in the same truck. And actually that convoy was the very first time that we got to drive an armadillo, which is when they very first came out. So it was brand new to our unit, and we happened to get to drive it. And we had no gunner, and we had no comm because our comm went down, and we were escorting prisoners. So it was a crazy experience, that convoy was. And it was, you know,
something that we keep not forgetting to talk about is the red patcher.
Oh yeah, I was a red patcher.
She was a red patcher, and some of you may not understand what that is, but she literally had, you know, just like a red patch everywhere she went. And yeah, they called them red patchers. But yeah, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so we had to keep them on when we were out in Iraq, and the red patches go on your forehead and they go on the back, and then there's one on each knee. And back in the day, it distinguished, you know, who was a grunt and who was not a grunt, who was going to stay on the ships, who wasn't going to stay on the ships. And then once TSB changed over to CLR, it took the red patches away, and only LS kept the red patches. So we got to take our red patches off finally. However, I do have covers, and I still have camis with my red patches on them. So I still do have red patch uniforms. But when we were in Iraq, yeah, we had them on our foreheads and on the back of our head and then on our knees. We didn't take them off out there.
Yeah,
and it was kind of crazy. Like, you know, obviously bright. Yeah. Yeah, it was.
And you guys are like always rolling in convoys and stuff like that. I mean, gosh,
that's all we did.
Rolling target.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead and talk about going on the convoys. I mean, you kind of experienced a lot of the same here. I was in supply, and a lot of my experience when I deployed was a lot of convoys in and out of Kuwait into Iraq. And so I was, in support of the frontline Marines. I ended up getting attached to a grunt unit my second go around when I got, moved over. I was in supply battalion, and it was a non-deployed unit, which I guess they ended up getting activated later on. But I had switched over and got into a grunt unit. But my experience was pretty much similar to yours. It was just a lot of convoys. And getting a little bit small fires here and there, and calling in air fire, and having to unload the 50 cals on a couple of locations. But let's talk about your experience over there.
Yeah, I mean, we did a lot of convoys. We did them, like I said, mainly at night, and we ran with our cat lights on. I don't want to get, like, I guess, too specific with it because I don't.
Right. Yeah. Give up.
No, but
tactical
So
shit.
like, yeah, so I mean, we did a lot. We did them at night, and then we would work during the nighttime when we got back by either unloading the trucks and breaking down tires and then rebuilding tires. I mean, we can break down some tires and rebuild some tires. Let me tell you what, that's pretty much all we did was convoys and break down and build tires out there, and there was a lot of IEDs and a lot of rockets and mortars and, incoming fire and outgoing fire. And, I've seen my fair share. I was out there during OIF 3, and like I said, we're the ones that took the cans all over the place. So we went to Baghdad and picked them all up and then dispersed them. We got to live in them for about 3 weeks, and then the new people came in and they kicked us out. So I was actually the first person to ever get to live in the can, which I guess is kind of cool to say, but
short-lived.
It was short-lived, yes. But we had air conditioning, and it was really nice versus living in the tent. One thing about living in the tent, there was a guy, a national that had came in while we were sleeping in the middle of the night, and he was rummaging through the girl who I'm going to retirement. He was rummaging through her sea bag, and I happened to wake up and saw it. Well, I don't know why I grabbed her rifle. I grabbed her M16 and I loaded hers, and, I chased him out of the tent. Well, I kind of thought I was dreaming about it. And then the other girls came forward and they're like, nope, we saw him too. Like, we saw what you did and we saw everything. So, from that time on, we had fire watch. So I'm sorry, everybody, that was my fault. But they made us do fire watch from that time on. And, it was pretty crazy. There was some pretty crazy stuff that we saw.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm sure. Now, let's talk a little bit about being a female in a male-dominated thing, and how were you treated any differently? Did the guys treat you the same? I mean, did you feel that you had to prove yourself to everybody? I mean, what was your experience as being a female in the Marine Corps?
I mean, yeah, definitely. You, as a female in the Marine Corps, you definitely feel like you have to prove yourself because men are obviously stronger than females, emotionally and physically. And so it was kind of hard to keep up with your male counterparts because, especially with like PT, you guys can obviously run faster than us, so that was always a struggle. But my guys were amazing. I never had any issues. I never had any problems. Like I said, to this day, if I had anything, if I needed anything, I could call any of them and, ask them for something. Right. But, it was just amazing. I've gotten so close with them, and my husband's a Marine too. So he understands. I have guys, or not just guys, but some of the females that I've served with too. I've served with obviously more guys than women. So a lot of the people that call me, a majority, maybe 85% are men, that call me and need to talk about stuff, or, need help with resources because I help veterans with resources. So, he understands because my husband was a Marine too. So it makes it easier especially when you're dual couple like that,
right?
I think. But, I've been trying to help veterans with getting resources and, veteran chats. I've started the vet chats. I do it once a month. So this month I'm doing it. I think it's May 27th, which is a Saturday.
And you're doing
at
that
20
on
Facebook.
TikTok?
We do it on Facebook.
Okay.
Yes. Eventually I'll probably start doing them on TikTok. I'm trying to get more people to follow, more veterans and stuff like that, or more, I mean, maybe I could start it now, but I just think that Facebook right now is a better place because I have more people that I'm, closer with on there. So maybe eventually I'll start it on TikTok. Yep. And then I'll do lives eventually, and so that people can come live and talk. Now, I'm not a therapist, and this is just a vet chat that we do, and it's for any veteran. I don't care how old you are, how long you served for. If you have PTSD or depression or bipolar, any type of anything, or you just want to talk, you feel lonely, that's what it's for. If you need help with resources, I do a lot of PTSD retreats. So I get a lot of resources along the way, and then I pass them out to other veterans that may need help. You know, um, and I feel that this chat is going to help people, hopefully, that way, if they have any problems, or they don't have anybody that they feel they can talk to, now they do. Once a month they can get on here and talk to people that are like-minded, and talk to people that have experienced the same thing that they've experienced. Whereas versus you go to therapy and you talk to a therapist, but sometimes the therapists haven't been there. Sometimes the therapists don't know exactly what to say, or sometimes they may not do or say the right thing, and it can trigger you versus help you, more. So I just feel that this maybe is going to be an outlet, hopefully, for some people, and for other people, maybe it will be their saving grace. Who knows? But I'm hoping to eventually start a PTSD retreat. That's my ultimate goal. I want to do equine therapy. So that's why I got my horses.
I feel like a lot of people, are more comfortable or more likely to open up to people that are like minded or have the same experience, or, because a lot of times, sometimes, especially when it comes to being a combat veteran and talking to people about your experiences in combat, sometimes when you're talking to people, you feel like they're not understanding, or they're kind of giving you that deer in the headlight look, you know what I mean? And it's just like a conversation that's hard to have with a lot of people. But when you get around veterans or other Marines, or people that are like-minded, it just makes things so much easier. So that's great that that's another outlet for people, because I think there's a big need for it. There's a lot of us that have experienced combat, and so there's something that we've always kind of failed to realize is there's a mental aspect that comes from it. A lot of us may look okay from the outside, but the inside could be a whole different ball game.
Yeah, yeah. And and these resources that I provide, it's not just like for therapy and stuff like that. These resources are for, tickets for vacations, or to do, fun activities with your family. It's financial hardship resources, service dog resources, lawyers. If you need a lawyer, it's a lawyer resource. It's other PTSD resources. It gives you lists of PTSD, retreats. And, if you've not been on a PTSD retreat, I highly recommend that you attend at least one. Most of them are free. Most of them are completely paid for. They'll pay for your plane ticket, your hotel, your
Wow.
food, everything.
Wow.
And, you do 5 days. And the equine ones are my favorite. There's one here in Florida that I attend frequently, Quantum Leap Farms. It's in Odessa, Florida, and it's just amazing. So, if
That's
you can get
awesome.
to them, I highly recommend it.
Wow, that sounds amazing. Yeah, I mean, see, here's the thing. You never know that these things are out there. But,
Mhm.
after talking to several people, you start learning and getting the word out there. That's great. I mean, I'm glad you're coming on and sharing this with all of us. Now, talking about PTSD, how does Chelsea deal with PTSD? Because I know, every one of us, especially being in the combat zone, came home with some PTSD and other ailments. So, how do you deal with it?
Yeah. You know, at first, when I started getting the symptoms and, having issues, I thought maybe I was going crazy. I actually had to reach out to other Marines and ask if they were experiencing the same things that I was, because I didn't know what I was experiencing when it first started happening. And I eventually started seeking therapy for it and trying to get help, and then it just wasn't working. So then the VA decides to load you down with prescription medication. I'm just not I'm not a prescription medication type of person. It doesn't work well with my body. Well, they had me maxed out on Klonopin and Ambien and Zoloft, and I felt like a walking zombie. I was completely dead to the world. I couldn't function. I wanted to sleep all the time. Nothing was getting done because I was just so tired. And one day somebody was like, hey, you need to try some RSO. And I'm like, what is RSO? And he's like, Rick Simpson oil. And I'm like, what in the hell is that? And he's like, marijuana. And I'm like, no. I'm like, nope. I'm like, I'm not doing your devil's lettuce. I'm not doing that shit. Like, it's not going to happen. No. And he's like, come on, it'll help your PTSD. I promise. He's like, you'll feel 100 times better. Like, it'll help you. You'll feel like a different person. You'll feel more alive. You'll feel like yourself again. That line right there is what got me. So I'm like, okay. I'm like, let's try it. So he goes, you only need a little rice-sized grain piece because it's very strong. And he's like, you don't want to overdo it. So I'm like, okay, never done it before in my life. And I tried it, and it was like an instant, like this worked. This is working. Did make me feel better. I feel great. So eventually he told me, there's different strains too, right? And then it started to spark my interest more because I started to research different strains and research indica and sativa and hybrid, and research the different terpenes and different, things that it does to the body and that it can do to the body. And so then I stopped doing the Ambien, the Zoloft, and the Klonopin, and started just doing medical marijuana. I'm from Michigan originally, so we were allowed to grow. I started to grow, and then we moved on to Florida, and we don't have recreational down here, so I can only go to the dispensary. But I mean, it still works. 7 years later, at least I'm not a walking zombie anymore, and it takes my pain away. I can definitely tell if it's not in my system. I can definitely tell that my pain has been amplified. Once I get it back into my system, the pain goes away. I had back surgery. I had a total disc replacement done. And so, they cut my stomach open and took all my organs out, took my bad disc out, put a whole new disc in my back, and then, put my organs back in and sewed me up. So I have a lot of pain. I have fibromyalgia and rheumatoid arthritis and osteoarthritis. And, it definitely helps. So my mom hates it. She hates the fact that I do it, but it helps me. And she understands that, which is great. She does understand that. So she's not like horrible about it, but it does help me. I do feel a difference. I do feel a difference if it's not in my system. I don't, get like sloshly disgusting, to the point to where you can't function. I, do it how normal people do it, I guess. But I mean, you smoke too. So, I mean, you probably know what I'm talking about, right?
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. I think for me, I'm trying to get the veterans and the people that are actually doing it and educated on it and be advocates for this to be an alternative method of a way of medicating us versus if this could eliminate 5 to 10 pills or something like that. I've talked to a guy on here who's an Army veteran. He was up to 16 different pills. That's one fucking hell of a, that's one hell of a mix. And what that's doing to his organs, his psyche, everything else. That can't be good, for extensive amounts of time. And then, some of these things that they're trying to give, it's getting these guys hooked on it, and they're getting hooked. And then they're taking them off like cold turkey because they're like, you're hooked. Yep. Well, fucking then now these guys are on the streets going and trying to buy shit off the streets. So it starts this whole thing. And I don't know why we can't get to that. I think we're getting closer to removing the taboo and people getting educated. Because even like my wife, when I first met her, she wasn't really keen on it. But I had to get to the level of being honest with people because this is what I need to help me. You know what I mean? And trust me, you fucking want me to smoke this, then not. I'm already a spunky dude. You know what I mean? So give me some indica so I can calm myself down and chill. And, you know, and also I could tell the same thing. Like I can tell when I do it, when I don't do it. I can't sleep very good at nights and things of that nature. And I'm just definitely a lot more on my alert mode when I don't have it.
Yeah. You know, and so because I don't like to smoke a whole lot, it doesn't last in my system for very long. So I've started making my own capsules too. And I'll use
Nice.
MCT oil. And, you know, the higher the fatty content, the better it's going to be because, you know, obviously THC binds to fat content. So that's why I use the MCT oil because it has the highest fat content. And then I usually will get like between 4 to 6 grams of distillate or RSO, and I put them into the MCT oil and I mix it up and I combine it. And then I'll buy empty capsules off from like Amazon or, you know, the Whole Food store. And then you just put it in the capsule and you just, you know, pop a capsule and you're good all day, like literally all day. And it puts me to sleep great. And
I think I'm gonna
it's
have to
been
get this
working
recipe
amazing.
from you. I think I'm gonna have to get this
Yeah,
from
for
you.
sure. I mean, it works great.
No, it sounds great. I mean,
Yeah.
because I mean that's the thing.
You know,
I
and
do smoke a lot, so it's probably not doing me any justice for the esophagus, the lungs, things of
yeah.
that nature.
Yeah, and especially, you know, you can adjust the level of it too. So if your tolerance gets up higher, you know, you can always add more RSO or more distillate to the oil. You know, I usually do a cup of oil and like I said, 4 to 6 grams of distillate, and then I'll mix it up and I'll keep it in a jar, you know, up to where it's locked away, and then when I want the capsule, I just take it out and put it in a little capsule and off I go for the day.
Nice. Now, are you more of a sativa or a indica or hybrid?
It I don't know. I kind of just smoke it all. It doesn't. I don't get paranoid from sativa. I don't. It
Yeah,
doesn't. It
n-
doesn't affect me. So
I think nowadays it's harder to find those pure strains and those pure strands. I don't think you ever really smoke 100% of indica or even the sativa. It's really hard to find that. I think that because of so many different generations of mixing, you know, and all the seeds that they've. I mean, oh my gosh, the science that people have done with this stuff,
hmm
and you, I mean, mutated it and you know made all these different genetics and stuff like that. I think it's hard to find pure strains anymore, and a lot of times you're finding stuff that's kind of, you know, maybe it's 90% indica, 10% sativa, but I mean, I think that you find it in a lot of mix now.
yeah, and you know what else is good though too is with these capsules, you can buy the terpenes. You can buy that on Amazon. So if you do need, you know, more help with your PTSD or you need more terpene for your PTSD, you can just buy it on Amazon and add the terpenes to the oil mix as well. I do
Yeah.
that too, and that really helps.
Wow. Good old
Yeah.
Amazon nowadays. You could just about get
Yeah,
anything,
it's good for everything.
right?
Yeah, you can too.
I'm just waiting before you get your package in the mail. Some, you know, like what? Let's see, Bubba OJ or something like.
Yep. Every day my husband's like, "What did you order now?" It's just like an Amazon. You know, I hate going out in public. I have a service dog, but I'm getting ready to retire him. So, you know, I'm avoiding public lately, and I just order everything off Amazon now. It works better. I don't have to leave the house.
Yeah, I seen your service dog. Let's talk more about the service dog. How long have you had your service dog?
Yeah. Oh, I've had him for 7 years. He was
Wow.
actually trained out of Michigan. Yeah, out of Clare, Michigan, through a company called Helping Paws. And the lady's name is Lori Shaw, and she's absolutely amazing. And she does this for free for veterans. So you can either be connected with a dog, and she'll train you and the dog together. So what she did is once a week we would go and we would train, and she would show us what to do with the dog. And then during that week we would go home and work with the animal, and then the following week we would go back and test out. And if we didn't pass the test, we had to do it again for another week and keep doing it until the dog caught on to the task that you were trying to train them, to do. So in the process of training our dog, she taught us how to do it as well. And you could either buy your own dog or you could be connected with a dog that she had. We found these people that had a black lab puppy that they were originally selling for $800, but when they found out that we were using it to be my service dog, they sold him to us for a lot cheaper. So we bought him, and it took us 12 months to train, which is about the normal time that it takes for her to train dogs. We never failed a task or anything like that. My dog is super smart. And so, you take the CGC test and you have to test out. And then, she does it for free for veterans. I mean, so if you're in Michigan and, you're a veteran and you need a service dog, Lori Shaw for sure, Helping Paws out of Clare, Michigan. She's great.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Bless
and
her,
there's
man. Good dang.
Yeah, there's a lot of organizations out there though too, that, and this is what a lot of veterans don't know. There's a lot of organizations out there to where you can get a free service dog, to where, it's already going to be trained, but you have to go and, connect with it and train maybe for 3 weeks, versus a year. But there are companies that will help vets get service dogs.
That's outstanding.
And they're great. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing that there's a lot of great services out there. It's just that we don't have the know about them, or we really got to dig deep to go find these things, or you get put in that number ring where they're like someone gives you a number to a number to a number. So I mean, it'd be nice to eventually have this like one-stop shop somewhere where veterans can go look up resources and find like, hey, I need this or I need that, because there's so much. Like here in California, there's they'll take care of if you went homeless or something like that. They have a HUD Vash where they pay a percentage of your rent, and then there's also another place that provides furniture for a lifetime for free. There's places out there that will fix your vehicles if you break down and you're having a lot of problems with your engines. I mean, you just got to go out there and look at some of these VA resources and just see what is out there. The thing is you just got to go out there and call. And I mean, I'm one to speak because I'm not good at doing that shit. If I didn't have a wife that was, persistent and okay with being put on hold, as soon as someone puts me on hold, I'm like, son of a bitch. Like, I don't got that patience like her. But I mean, there's some great things out there, and I mean, I'm glad that you're also. That's the great part about veterans nowadays is everybody's out there trying to do something one way or another and help their brothers and sisters out. So I mean, it's great. That's one thing that's been kind of awesome about getting on TikTok is looking at the community and seeing how many people are out there are actually trying to do stuff. There's Tackle 22 Fishing out there. I'm not sure if you've heard of those guys.
Yes.
But they take people out fishing, hunting. I mean, all kinds of stuff with, dealing with PTSD. There's, like you said, there's people out there with wolves. There's dogs. There's all kinds of great things. It's just, you got to go out there and look for them. And I mean, unfortunately, not all the states have some of these great resources. Some of them have what some of them don't have, but it would be nice once everybody can kind of have the same opportunity.
Yeah, I agree. And, maybe actually now that we're talking about it, maybe I'll post the resources that I do have. Maybe I'll do a TikTok with them and I'll post it on TikTok, and then, hopefully it can get shared enough to where, if people do need it, then they can save it even on their TikTok.
Or maybe there's even a way that even we put our states in put the things that we know of, and then it's just a list that eventually accumulates and it goes by the different states or something. That would be cool too. Some way have some a connection where it's like a one-stop shop. And people like, hey, you're having engine problems or something, there's these guys. And because a lot of these programs, they're funded,
Hmm.
but if the money's not being spent or they don't have enough people to spend it, the fundings go away.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of people, like I said, they don't know about it. So a lot of these things end up losing their funding.
Yeah, I agree. Like the quantum leap farm that I go to, the PTSD retreat, that one is awesome. You do 5 days of therapy, and you have group therapy sessions, and then you have private therapy sessions. And sometimes they'll do sacral cranial massages, which are amazing. Or they'll do acupuncture. You do yoga. They feed you. I mean, it's amazing. I've met so many great people through these retreats. There's one person that I met through the retreats. It's the first one that I ever went on back in, well, I think it was my second retreat, to be honest, maybe in 2016. And his name is Eric, and we became best friends, like literally best friends. We got matching tattoos, and we have matching piercings. We went and got our dates pierced, to help our migraines. And it's just we've been super close. And so these retreats also, they don't just help you, but they bring you closer to other people that are like you. It makes you feel like you have that camaraderie again that you did in the military, because you are around these other veterans, and you are in your zone, like you're in your comfort zone. Like you feel safe and comfortable there, because that they went through the same thing that you possibly did. And the first day is always iffy, because you're meeting each other, and you got to size
Filling
each
everybody
other up.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So the first days are always iffy, and then after that, like, it gets so much better, and you really do form a connection. And I want to say by like the third day, you're all inseparable, and you really notice that bond that's being created between the group of you. And I went on other retreats too. Warriors Ascent, that one is in, gosh, I think it was in Missouri. That one actually broke me. That one made me cry. I've never cried at any of these retreats, and I bawled like a baby at this retreat. um that one really, really was amazing. And they make you jump off this tower, and it was, I don't even remember, 90 feet, 100 feet, somewhere around there. And you climb up to the top. It's a pole. I can't remember what they called it. The leap of faith is what it's called. The
Right.
leap of
Yeah, yeah,
faith.
yeah.
And you're tethered, to a tether, and you have to climb up the pole, and then you have to try and stand on the top of the pole and jump off. I'm deathly afraid of heights. Deathly afraid of heights.
Right.
So they managed to get me up this pole. And I was scared, because remember, I had back surgery. So I didn't know if, when I jumped off the pole, if the tether was going to pull my back, or, jar my disc out of place, anything like that. It's already moved a little bit, and I have to have it fused now. So it's kind of like a touch and go situation with what I do. So they managed to get me up, and I was so scared. I couldn't get down. I didn't want to jump. And I managed. I finally jumped, but I did exactly what the guy told me not to do. He's like, don't grab the thing, the rope when you jump. He's like, just leave it. And what did I do? It was my first like thought process. I grabbed it. But I mean, I was scared. So, I mean, but they're worth it. They're definitely worth it. And that one was free. I didn't pay for we stayed in a cabin. So you stay in a cabin in the woods with the Warriors Ascent retreat. And then there's also another retreat called the Lone Survivors Foundation, but they changed the name of it recently. I don't remember what they changed the name to. But you can go to Texas, and I think North Carolina, and I think Iowa was another state that you could go to. And that one was, free too. But I highly encourage veterans to look into them.
Yeah, they sound absolutely great. I mean, and it's like you said, it's a great way to build up that camaraderie again that I think a lot of veterans start to miss. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? I know for me, once I got out, I definitely cut ties with a lot of friends that I grew up with, family members. I mean, just, I got myself way more distant and stuff like that. And I found myself really gravitating towards my buddies and stuff that I was in the Marine Corps and all the people that I've kind of, lived life with, and went through some crazy situations. But that's great that there's these things out there, and like I said, people that don't know about it, we got to somehow start to try to get that out there, and that's one reason why I've kind of started doing this podcasting too, is to try to bring awareness, bring on veterans to tell their stories, to raise, and also, that's another way of raising awareness, and how are you guys dealing with stuff, and it just makes it, when we start seeing other people talking about it starts to make it way more comfortable, and we're normalizing, being able to talk about situations that, we may not feel so comfortable talking about. But,
Exactly.
being around like-minded people, it definitely helps. And people that have been through the same thing, you definitely feel like you're being less judged and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that we always, especially as veterans, I think we always are, worried about being judged or something to that degree from our peers or whoever.
Oh no, I agree. Yeah. And and it's really hard too because as a female, gunner, like you have men sometimes that'll be like, "No, you are not a female. You are not a gunner." Like, females are not allowed to do that. Like, I don't believe you. And I'm just like, okay, well, don't believe me. I know what I did. I was there. I was behind that weapon. I was in the gun turret, like it was so cold when we first got there, and I absolutely hate the cold. And I'm small enough that I can fit inside my sleeping bag. So I would stand inside my sleeping bag in the gun turret, and it has that, how it has that like hood thing that you can put
Yeah.
on. So I would put the little hood thing on, and I would have my goggles on and my beanie, and I would sit there just like this inside my sleeping bag while the truck was going down on the convoy, because it was so cold. And then it got to the point to where it was so hot,
Yeah.
and
There's two different extremes there. It gets hot as fuck and it's cold as fuck there.
yeah, yeah. So, and then it rained really bad when we were there, and it was to the point where you could pretty much swim through it. It was deep. It came up to like our knees, and it was just so much great experiences. There was camel spiders, and then the scorpions, and the snakes, the sand viper snakes that we saw. It
Yeah,
was
see, I don't
a good
think a
time.
lot of the old timers understand that females do go to the combat zone. They do deploy. They are put in every situation like we are. I mean, every convoy I was on, there was several females on there with us, and they were taking contact, having to put down fire, rounds down range and stuff, just like everybody else. So,
Yeah.
people got to stop with that bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah. And during security halts, like you would have to, when we were escorting civilians or whatever, we had to run back and forth between our vehicle and their vehicle to check on them. And sometimes they would be two vehicles back, and, we would be getting shot at by, not just by, guns or whatever, but rockets and mortars. And, we're on a security halt because why? Because we got hit by an IED, or, we're taking incoming fire. So, you're getting shot at and you're running back and forth, and people just don't understand that that's,
And I don't think another thing that people understand is how much of a target convoys are. I
yeah.
mean, they are a constant target. That's why they have people that clear paths before the convoys go down them. I mean, because it's a critical thing. A lot of time they're carrying some very critical things to the mission. So
Yeah, we had mine
convoys
rollers.
are big time targets. But I
Mm-hmm.
mean, definitely, everybody on there knows how to handle it, the situation typically. So, I mean, we wouldn't have all these successful convoys if it wasn't for a whole bunch of badasses.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't say that. It was more scary. Like, I was scared to go on convoys at first. I'm not going to lie. So
No,
I
I
opted to
feel you.
do like, like a working party for a while. And then eventually they were like, no, nope, you're done with the working party. Like you're going to start
It's time
doing
to
what you
go.
came here to do. And then my very first convoy, we have to have fire extinguishers in our vehicles, right? So our very first convoy, I stepped on a fire extinguisher and it went off, and the whole inside of the truck was white with the fire extinguisher stuff. And we had to get out of the truck because we couldn't breathe, and it stunk so bad. And then I had to like clean everything off because it was just like all over. It was horrible. I was so embarrassed. Like, I was like, this is not a good start to my very first convoy. Like, this is awful. You know, and we had fun out there. We made it fun, I think.
That's one hell of an icebreaker, though. Shit.
Yeah.
Oh, there she goes, fucking shit up already.
Yeah, well, I mean, I ran into the back of an LVS one time. I wasn't paying attention. To be fair, my ex-husband was ground guiding me, and I was staring at his ass. This is why married couples should not be together out there, okay? This right here is why.
Oh my gosh, dude.
So I was staring at his ass because he was ground guiding me, and I wasn't paying attention, and I ran into the back of an other LVS. Well, I got in trouble, and my staff sergeant was a former DI.
Oh.
And I felt like I was a recruit. And she made me clean all of the windows on the trucks with water and toilet paper, or water and paper towel. No, newspaper. I'm sorry. Whatever it was. Newspaper, some kind of paper, magazine paper, something. It was water and some kind of magazine paper. And there was a lot of trucks, and there was a lot of windows. I was out there for a while. It broke the headlight. We had to change the headlight out. It was so crazy. It was so bad. You know,
that's a good one. That is a good one. Checking out the husband's ass.
Yeah, so definitely don't go out there as married.
Too often, right?
Yeah. Oh gosh, it was crazy. You know, and you know, our flight out there. So like our flight out there, got it got suspended because something was wrong with the plane. So we ended up having to stay the night in the hangar that night on our way to Iraq. So that made it scary enough. Yeah. And then you get to Iraq, and you know, get on the bus to head from Kuwait to where you're going. And, you know, they give you ammo. You get 500, you know, rounds of ammo. And you have to, you know, load up a magazine and get on the bus. Then you have guardian angels, and, you know, it's just a scary thing at 19, you know, and being a female. Like, females are not supposed to see the shit that I saw. They're not supposed to do the shit that I did. And we did. You know,
you ended up joining in 2004. So you already, I mean, you joined after all the stuff had happened, 9/11. I mean, we already had gone to war. So you did have somewhat of an inclination you could possibly deploy, or did you not think you would?
No, I knew. I volunteered to go. So when the girl that I'm going to see that's retiring, and I got to Japan, they asked people if we wanted to go. They didn't make us go. And her and I, like I said, we were joined at the hip, and we were like, let's do it. Let's go. So then, you know, we left for Mount Fuji, and we took an HSV. That was a whole different, we took an HSV from Okinawa to mainland Japan, and it took us like 2 days. And I had to back an LVS up onto the HSV. I was scared. And I had Marines that were recording it, and I just saw the recording of it like maybe a couple of months ago, and it was hilarious. I didn't even know that this recording existed until a few months ago. So, I mean, that definitely brought back good memories. And then, you know, we took this HSV for like 2 days to mainland, and I did some training in Tokyo for, I don't know, I think we were there for 30 or 45 days. We did Mount Fuji for Iraq. Don't ask me why, but we did. And I mean, that was a pretty cool experience. I got really super seasick. They had to knock me out with Dramamine. They woke me up for a promotion, and I threw up during the promotion. So they gave me more Dramamine. They were just like, take this. And then they told me to go out on the deck and try and get some fresh air. And I threw up all over the place, and they recorded me throwing up as well. So, you know, Marines will be Marines. I mean, like I said, my time in was great. I had so much fun. I really did. That was definitely the best time of my life. And then I turned 27 and I had my daughter, and then I had my son, and then I got married again. And then we have a 4-year-old now. So it's been good.
Nice. Well, that's good. I'm really glad that you came on and shared your experience with us, and uh, I'm excited that I finally got a lady on here, especially a Marine. You're the first one, so hoorah.
Cool.
But thank you so much, Chelsea, for coming on and sharing, sharing your story, your experiences with all of us. I really appreciate it. I'm gonna show her TikTok. You guys can go check her out. Go at her as a friend. Go watch her videos. Help support her. She's trying to, get something going for the veteran community. We really appreciate that. If you could just stick around. If you have any last words or anything you want to say, anything before we go.
And thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Absolutely.
This has been fun. So thank you.
Absolutely. I appreciate you coming on. Like I said, it's amazing. So I'll be with you in 1 second. All right. All right, friends and fam, that wraps up another great interview. Chelsea had some great stories and great experiences. Like I said, that's the first lady I got on here. I'm super excited to have it be a Marine as well. So thank you guys so much for once again tuning in to Every Day to Saturday with your host, me, myself, and I, Brian Roof.